Welcome back to another episode of SmoothBrainEDH, where we make the smoothest plays with the biggest brains. We're back with some casual gameplay with some returning commanders today. So let's hop right into it and see who's playing what. First up, and backed by popular demand, is Shelby playing Ivy. This Simic deck focuses on absolutely abusing Ivy's ability to get free value, whether that be targeting his own creatures with instant sorceries, casting auras, or even casting creatures with mutate. He'll keep an opening hand of Misty Rainforest, Command Tower, Hinterland Harbor, an Island, Arcane Signet, Croaking Counterpart, and Irenicus's Vile Duplication. Up next is Matt playing Omnath, the Big Green Jelly Bean. This mono green deck is all about floating as much green mana as possible to cast big and powerful spells. And of course hitting with Omnath is a good option too. Matt will keep an opening hand of 3 forests, Beast Within, Rishkar's Expertise, Defiler of Vigor, and Nissa who shakes the world. Up next is Jason on Najeela the Blade Blossom. This is a very aggressive 5-color deck that plans on abusing Najeela's ability to make warriors, and then more warriors, and then more warriors, and finally some more warriors until his opponents are dead. Jason keeps an opening hand of Mountain, Seaside Citadel, Felwar Stone, Unbreakable Formation, Kathar's Crusade, Rushblade Commander, and Chatterfang Squirrel General. And finally, last but not least, we have Cameron returning with Jaxis the Troublemaker. This mono red deck is all about copying powerful creatures and then swinging hard at opponents with them. Cameron keeps an opening hand of 3 Mountains, Wayfarer's Bauble, Arcane Signet, Dockside Extortionist, and Inferno Titan. We're about to hop right into the gameplay, but before we do that, I've got a few things I'd like to say. First and foremost, we have chosen the 3 winners for our 10,000 subscriber giveaway. If you're interested in seeing who they are, we'll be announcing them at the end of the video. Also, go down to the comments below and let us know who you think is going to win this game. And while you're down there, be sure to check out all our links in the description. We've got deck lists for you, links to our Patreon and social media, and also a link to our second channel where we post our podcast. We're also sponsored by Dragon Shield, so if you're interested in picking up any Magic the Gathering products, such as sleeves, playmats, or deck boxes, be sure to click our affiliate link down below. But that's enough talk, let's hop right into the gameplay. Looks like Shelby wins the die roll. He'll play his Misty Rainforest, and immediately crack it for a tropical island, and pass to Matt while searching. Matt plays a forest and passes to Jason. Jason plays Seaside Citadel and passes to Cameron. And Cameron will play a mountain and then cast his Wayfarer's Bauble, and then pass the turn back to Shelby, who starts off with a Command Tower, and then he'll cast his Arcane Signet, then pass to Matt. Matt will play another forest, and then he'll pass the turn to Jason. Jason will play his mountain, and then he'll tap for 2 to cast Felwar Stone, then pass to Cameron, who plays his second mountain, and then he'll go ahead and crack his Wayfarer's Bauble to get a 3rd mountain. The turn is then passed to Shelby, and he'll play his Hinterland Harbor, and then cast Ivy, and then pass to Matt. Matt plays another forest, and then casts the Big Green Jelly Bean. The turn is then passed to Jason, who casts Chatterfang, who is a warrior. Jason will then play Vivid Crag, and then pass the turn. Cameron starts off with a basic mountain, and then he'll cast an Arcane Signet. After this, he'll tap for 3 for a Hazoret's Monument, and then passes the turn to Shelby, who plays a basic island as land for turn. He'll then just move to combat, swing for 2 in the air at Matt, and then just pass the turn to Matt. Matt will also just move to combat and swing for 1 at Jason, who doesn't block. Before damage, Matt will float 3 mana to make Omnath a 4/4, so Jason will take 4 commander. Moving on to second main, Matt will cast a Finhorn Elves, and then he'll pass the turn with 2 still in his mana pool. The turn is now Jason's, and he'll start by casting Najeela. He then moves to combat and swings for 3 at Matt with Chatterfang. Najeela triggers, making a 1/1 tapped and attacking warrior, and Chatterfang will also make a tapped and attacking squirrel. And Jason sends them both at Matt, so Matt will just take 5 damage. The turn is then passed to Cameron, who just top decked a Soul Ring, so he'll cast it. He'll then tap for 5 mana and drop Inferno Titan. When it enters the battlefield, he'll point all 3 damage at Chatterfang. Jason's not a fan of this, and I don't blame him. He has no way to stop it, but he will respond by paying a black, sacrificing a squirrel, and killing off Finhorn Elves. After this, Cameron will blitz out Jaxis for only 1 mana, and then he'll play a mountain as land for turn. He then pays a red, discards Dockside Extortionist, and activates Jaxis to make a token copy of Inferno Titan. When it enters the battlefield, he deals 1 damage to Ivy and 2 to Najeela. After this, Cameron moves to combat and swings for 6 with his copy of Inferno Titan at Shelby. When the damage trigger goes on the stack, he points all 3 at Omnath. All the damage will then go through. After this, Cameron will pass the turn, and on his end step, he sacrifices the Inferno Titan and Jaxis, and then draws 2 cards. The turn is now Shelby's, and he decides to start off with what he drew, a rapid hybridization, getting rid of that Inferno Titan. Shelby will then recast Ivy, and then he passes the turn to Matt. Matt is unfortunately stuck on 3 lands, so he just has to pass the turn and discard a Kamal. Now on Jason's turn, he taps for 3 and casts a Professional Facebreaker. Jason will then move to combat, hit Matt for 1, make a treasure, cast Bloodchin Rager on his second main, and then pass the turn. Cameron will start his turn off by paying 3 to blitz out Jaxis again, and then he'll cast a Sword of Hearthenhome. After this, he'll equip it to his Jaxis, and then he'll move to combat and swing for 4 Commander at Shelby, who can't block it thanks to Pro Green. Upon connecting, Cameron will blink Jaxis, meaning she doesn't have to sacrifice on end step, and then he'll find a mountain to the battlefield. The turn is then passed to Shelby, and Shelby decides he wants to vilely duplicate Ivy. Now, with a second non-legendary Ivy, Shelby will move to combat, swing for 2 in the air at Cameron, and then pass the turn to Matt. Matt will stop on instep and beast within Sword of Hearthenhome, giving Cameron a second 3/3. Now on Matt's turn, he'll tap for 2 and cast a Shigeki. He'll pass the turn missing another land drop, but at least he doesn't have to discard this time. The turn is now Jason, and he starts off by casting Raider's Spoils. He'll then move to combat, and he swings for 6 at Shelby and 2 at Matt. Upon attacking, all his creatures will get Menace. And upon connecting, Jason will get 2 treasure tokens, and then he gets to pay 3 life to draw 3 cards. Now in second main, he'll play Unclaimed Territory as lane for turn, and would you believe me if he named Warrior? Well, anyways, after this he'll cast Soul Ring, and then he'll tap the Soul Ring and sacrifice a treasure to cast Cultivate. He declares that he's going to find a swamp to the battlefield tapped and a plains to his hand, and passes to Cameron while he's searching. On Cameron's turn, he'll start off by casting a Sky Scanner, drawing a card when it enters the battlefield. And I would like to formally apologize for Cameron. He keeps putting his cards right under the card art, and he should know better. Moving on though, Cameron will activate Jaxis, discarding Sundial of the Infinite to make a copy of Sky Scanner to draw another card. He'll then play a Great Furnace as land for turn, and then he'll swing for 1 in the air at Jason. He'll then move to end step, sacrifice the token, draw a card, and then pass to Shelby, who starts off with a basic forest as land for turn. He'll then tap for 3 and cast Croaking Counterpart. His target is Professional Facebreaker, and then both of his Ivies will trigger, and have a copy targeting them as well. So he'll make a copy of the Professional Facebreaker, that's a frog, and then he'll get 1 extra non-legendary Ivy frog. After this, he'll tap for 3 and he'll mutate Migratory Greathorn onto his Professional Face Frog. You might be wondering if he's allowed to do this since Professional Facebreaker is a human, but thanks to Croaking Counterpart, it's actually just a frog. It doesn't say in addition to its other types. And so Shelby will mutate 4 Migratory Greathorns on top of his Ivies and his Frog Breaker. And when they all mutate, he gets to search for 4 basic lands to the battlefield tapped. And then he'll just pass the turn to Matt after that, who will play a Gaia's Cradle as land for turn. He'll tap the Cradle and a forest to activate Shigeki's ability, revealing a Balaged Recovery, 2 forests, and an Avenger of Zendikar. He'll put a forest to the battlefield tapped, and then the rest in his graveyard. After this, he'll recast Shigeki, and then he'll pass the turn to Jason, who starts off with a basic plains as land for turn. He'll then tap for 5 to cast Cathar's Crusade. Terrifying. And with exactly 5 mana left, he'll recast Najeela, Cathar's Crusade trigger. Jason will then move to combat, and he'll swing the Professional Facebreaker at Matt, and then his 2 other warriors at Shelby. 3 warriors attacking means 3 warriors made, and 3 warriors made means 3 Cathar Crusade triggers. Since they aren't all made at the same time though, 1 warrior will get 3 counters, 1 will get 2, and the last one will only get 1 counter. And Jason has the trigger to give all his warriors Menace resolve last. And after calculating all the damage, Shelby sees that he can double block Jason's smallest creature and survive at 1. So that's what he decides to do, and Matt can't block, so he takes 7. Upon connecting, Jason will make 2 treasure tokens, and then he has 5 pay a life, draw a card triggers, but he decides to stop at 2. And then the turn is passed to Cameron, who starts off by tapping for 4 to cast Panharmonicon. He'll then activate Jaxis, discarding a Solemn Simulacrum to make another Sky Scanner. When it enters the battlefield, he'll draw 2 cards. He then drops a Fires of Invention. It's the first spell he casts this turn, so he's still got 1 more free one. But he'll move to combat first and swing for 1 at Jason. And post-combat, he'll tap for 1 and cast Blasphemous Act. It resolves, the board is wiped, and Cameron gets to draw a card off his creature dying. The turn is passed to Shelby after this, and he'll start by casting his beloved Ivy again. After this, he'll mutate Gemrazor onto Ivy, and he'll blow up the Cathar's Crusade when it does. The turn is then passed to Matt, who still unfortunately can't do anything, so he'll pass the turn to Jason. And Jason will tap for 7 and recast Najeela. He then casts a Mindblade Render, and a Rushblade Commander, giving all of his warriors haste. He'll then move to combat and turn his 3 creatures sideways at Cameron. He'll get 3 warrior triggers, and he'll send those 3 1/1s at Shelby, which will unfortunately kill him, and Cameron will have to take 9. Upon connecting, Mindblade Render will trigger once, and then Jason will pay 3 extra life, so he'll get a total of 4 cards. He then plays an Opal Palace as land for turn, and then he has to discard 2 cards when he passes to Cameron, who starts off with a Terror of the Peaks, and he accepts his first Hazaret's Monument trigger, discarding a Fellwar Stone. He blitzes Jaxis again, and he has 2 2-damage triggers, so he points them both at Jason. He then activates Jaxis, discarding Prismatic Lens to make another Terror of the Peaks. This time he points 5 damage at Najeela, and then 5 damage at the commander. He'll then move to combat, swing for 5 at Jason, and then he'll move to end step, sacrifice the copy of Terror of the Peaks, and draw a card. He'll also sacrifice his copy of Jaxis and draw a card, and then he'll pass the turn to Matt. Matt finally finds something, and he casts Cultivate. He puts a tapped forest to the battlefield and then one to his hand, and then he'll play the forest as land for turn, and then pass to Jason. Jason starts his turn off with a Brutal Horde Chief, and then he'll cast a Chief of the Edge. After this, he casts Grand Warlord Rada, and then he moves to combat and turns everything he can sideways at Cameron. Attack triggers, he'll make 5 red mana, and then he'll immediately spend that mana to activate his Brutal Horde Chief, forcing Cameron to block Rada with his Terror of the Peaks. Cameron also has to lose 5 life, and Jason will gain 5, and then damage will go through, Mindblade Render will trigger, and then Jason will pay 3 life to draw 3 more cards. After this, he plays a Jungle Shrine as land for turn, and then he'll pass the turn to Cameron, who stops him on his end step, to cycle a Forgotten Cave. Now on his turn, Cameron will tap for 7 mana to blitz out Jaxis again. He'll accept another Hazoret's Monument trigger, discarding a mountain. The card he drew from it is an Itsushi, so he'll free cast it. He'll then activate Jaxis, discarding yet another mountain to make a copy of it. Legend Rule happens, it'll die immediately, so he draws a card and then exiles a Fire Diamond and another mountain. He'll then pass the turn to Matt, Jaxis will die, and Cameron will draw a card. Matt will start off by casting Nissa, Who Shakes the World. He'll upticker to untap a forest and animate it. Now with his forest's mana doubled, Matt can finally cast his Defiler, and then he'll pass the turn. Jason then drops a Mirror Entity, which essentially secures him the game. He'll pump 9 mana into Mirror Entity's ability, making all of his creatures 9/9s. He'll then swing 2 11/9s at Cameron, forcing him to lose 2 life, and then Jason will gain 2 life, and then he'll swing the rest at Matt, which is more than lethal. Unfortunately, Cameron and Matt can't do anything to stop this, so they pack it up, and Jason is today's winner. Great job, man. Well everyone, there you have it. Najeela does it again. Just floods the board with warriors and pumps those boys up. Let us know what you thought about the game down in the comments below. But now let's talk about who won the 10,000 subscriber giveaway. First of all, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for entering. We really appreciate that. And we thank you all for subscribing and watching our videos. First off, congratulations to our first place winner, Buck Fizzard. You're the winner of our custom SmoothBrainEDH playmat, a box of our SmoothBrain sleeves, and a copy of Liliana of the Veil signed by its artist. Our second place winner goes to Canby VT. You're the winner of a custom box of SmoothBrain sleeves, 3 boxes of Dragon's Shield sleeves, and a custom 3D printed SmoothBrainEDH deck box. And last but not least, the winner of our third place prize is Dick Jones. You win a box of our custom SmoothBrainEDH sleeves, a Dragon Shield double shell deck box, and 2 boxes of Dragon Shield sleeves. So congratulations to those 3 winners, and thank you all so much who entered. Be sure to check all our links down in the description below before you leave, but that's enough talk for now, guys. Have a smooth day.